Just a quick disclosure to share in conjunction with this podcast. Each of us are speaking to our personal experiences and do not consider ourselves experts and cannot offer medical, therapy, financial, or legal advice. We represent a wide range of experience on the autism spectrum and will always honor each perspective that is brought to our discussions. Our experiences, opinions, and perspectives are all unique and different and will be celebrated. Thank you so much for listening and connecting with us. Thank you. Welcome to Navigating Adult Autism. We are 7 moms with a lot of opinions, a lot of perspective, and a lot of experience. My name is Mary, and I am here with Elizabeth, Cynthia, Heather, Tara, Dawn, and Kara. And the topic we are discussing is, 3 of them. The definitions of neurodiversity, neurodivergent, and neurodiverse. So, because it's kind of a hot topic going around these days, and we're all kind of confused about it a little bit. So, neurodiversity is the idea that people have different ways of thinking, learning, and behaving, and that these differences are normal. Neurodivergent is a term for people whose brains process information differently than most people. Neurodiverse is a term for a group of people who are neurodivergent. So there you go. So Kara, why don't you shoot us off with how this term originated?
Well, I did some research, and the term neurodivergent that I found came from a related term, neurodiversity. Judy Singer, an Australian sociologist who is also on the autism spectrum that I had read, coined the word neurodiversity in 1998, from my understanding from a thesis that she had done in 1998, to recognize that everyone's brain develops in a unique way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kara.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth, do you have something to add in there?
Well, I'm just, I think we're here tonight, like you said, we are kind of confused and we're just trying to figure this out. We want to kind of sit here and really talk. And I was wondering when you guys first heard, I know I first started hearing this talk years and years and years ago. Back, I can't remember there was a book that came out that really talked about this is the evolution of the brain, and this is kind of where we're heading, and we're really putting it into on their side a positive light, but it was really, really controversial, and it I thought disappeared a little bit there. That was a long time ago. Is that ringing any bells with you guys?
The basic concept of everybody's brain is different and functions differently.
But that's common sense.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry, it is. Everybody's brain funcks differently. Why do we need to put a freaking label on it?
Because everyone's label happy these days, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's that bell curve, where in the middle, one standard deviation on either side is normal, and everything outside of that center part of the bell curve isn't. And so, it is common sense. And I went back to a book that I had read on, it was entitled Shadow Syndromes, the mild forms of major mental disorders that sabotage us. I read the introductory chapter and the chapter on autism. And evidently Sigmund Freud had said something to the effect of normal people are not all that normal. Mm-hmm. So, there is that everybody's different, but the differences between my son and some of the other children represented here there's a big difference.
Yeah. Right.
And we all seem to be under that label of autism spectrum disorder.
Right. Used to be called ASD.
Why don't we read what is neurodivergent, what they're saying when we look it up? What diagnosis does it fall under?
Oh, you mean
to read all of them?
I read the definitions. You want to read the diagnosis?
Yes. And one thing, back to, before we do that real quick, one of the things that in a lot of the definitions it said as far as that difference was that the brain of that person who would assign themselves being neurodiverse doesn't match that how a neurotypical. So remember, we have neurodiverse, and then we got the neurotypical phrases that came out. And it's important to remember that this is not, when we're talking about these terms, they're not a diagnosis.
It's not a
They're
medical
not
term.
a medical term.
It's not a medical term.
They're and not a condition. Okay. So these conditions that fall under it. So it's the neurodiversity. Which word are we using then for that we're
Exactly.
talking
What
about?
are we going to use? Neurodiversity, the idea that people have different ways of thinking, learning, and behaving, and that these differences are normal. That seems like a normal person.
So then the neurodivergent person.
A term for people whose brains process information differently than most people, which would be more like autism.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
So
Or these
so
diagnoses.
so the conditions that they're saying out in the media as we search, the conditions, some of the conditions are autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, Down syndrome, all the dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyslexia, dyspraxia, intellectual disabilities.
Affects the
And they're
brain.
also saying mental health conditions like bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette's syndrome, Williams syndrome, even the social anxiety. It's under, So, and I looked a lot of different places, and it was all kind of the same. It was everything. So it's kind of where do you draw that line? Why are we using the terms?
Why? Yeah.
Well, and we're saying they, so we do want to reiterate that they is not the medical community. This is a more cultural, would we say, word?
Well,
that
the
we're
medical
using to
community is
describe-
using it. The medical community they're
But I
using
mean,
it.
it's not in.
Well, are they? I talked to one person in the medical community today, and they're using it.
Well, I think
How are they using it? Do you know?
to describe the whole, all of us. Yeah, I mean, isn't it?
Yep.
I mean,
That we're all neurodivergent.
it seems more like a social
I have
kind of.
never heard it from a doctor.
Yeah, I have not
I haven't
either.
either.
Yeah.
I heard from a doctor today, and he uses it a lot. And
Did he use it like that definition that Elizabeth just said? Because I've heard people use it to talk about just autism spectrum disorder.
Is it another euphemism or just
Right.
another term for
And as far as driving here,
fill
I
in
was
the blank?
trying to think of how to compare this off with is it kind of like religion? Because people may be a Christian or they may be an atheist. So if you're a Christian, there's something that you have some similarities, but there are
because Baptist and Assembly of God and all these different religions,
Yes,
and
and
also
you-
Catholicism, they're all under Christianity.
right. And so, and then you have those that have that belief system that have never joined a church or, were baptized or anything like that, but they might still call themselves Christian versus, somebody that has another deity or it's different beliefs. Is that kind of what neurodiversity is giving that, I'm going to declare myself this, and therefore I fall. Because I did go and, look at, okay, so what are the positives? So there are some things that are considered the positives, and then there are the other side.
I think people just naturally, just humans, as in my psychology work in college, talked about. I mean, people want to belong to a group. That's
exactly what I was
that
gonna
is
say.
exactly that's what humans want. They want a special group that they feel comfortable and whatever. And so it seems like to me that at the beginning, the core purpose of the term is certainly not a bad one. It's just trying to belong to a different group, that thinks differently or maybe acts differently or whatever. That part is pleasant and fine to me. It feels like though in different settings that this whole like explaining, I think we've gotten to some extremes though. And I'm saying that just your everyday, hey, I'm neurodiverse, whatever, that doesn't offend me or anything. But as a parent of someone who his brain does not work normally. He has profound autism. He can't hardly do anything himself. So to assume that, if we're using it in a helpful context for the broad span of people that it's supposedly representing at this point, then I would be fine with that. But it seems like it's kind of a source of contention
I feel like it's
at
overused.
times.
I feel like it's overused.
And then people are afraid not to say neuro, because I don't really use that word in my I just don't use it every day. Yeah, I don't know. I think that
Is Zachary
neurodivergent. Well, I mean, he certainly is. His brain does not work like neurotypical people.
According to the definition.
According to the definition that we just read, yes.
That he would be neurodivergent, not neurodiverse.
I suppose.
Neurodiverse is the group of people who are neurodivergent.
I think for us, like, we don't care. We have so many bigger fish to fry than what people call us, honestly. That's probably why I haven't. It's not that I don't buy into people labeling themselves that's fine with me. But if we get to the point where it's affecting supports and things that are required for people that need them, then I get super pissed.
Right.
I would say using it as a sociological term, I feel like that's okay. If it makes people or lets people find a group that they feel kinship to, if they belong, because it feels like the world, no one feels like they belong anywhere. Yeah. And if it feels like, the times are not the same, even in my generation.
So what do you mean people don't believe they belong anywhere? I don't think that's true for everybody. Do you?
No, but there's a large...
Well, let's talk about the rates of depression, anxiety in the youth. I mean, sky high. People, I don't have scientific research right in front of me, but I am in my master's of social work program. So I see these statistics all the time about the high rate of anxiety, suicide being one of the main contributors of death in our young people. People do not believe that they belong anywhere. They see people on social media that have better lives than them because they only put the good stuff on social media. Yes. So, if they feel like
the world of
if they find, if they have mental health concerns, anything like that, and they find something that explains how they feel about themselves, explains why they don't feel like they belong, then I feel like if they want, if they feel a kinship to that, as long as it's not being used as the medical term. And I think
it brings them comfort.
Yeah.
For some reason. Yeah.
Well, and
it doesn't take services
use that
away
term.
from.
About themselves. But
themselves.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the line in the sand is for me.
Yeah.
Use whatever term you want for yourself.
Agreed.
But you can't try to cancel or whatever word we want to use.
Cancel culture.
We don't want to use it for then, because I think it sounds like origin wise, it was really meant to be trying to be a more positive take on the stigma that goes along with disability just every day, 24/7.
And a sociologist is a researcher of people groups.
Yeah, for sure.
But guys, here's a big question. Does it normalize it? Does it normalize having a disability? I mean, does it normalize, and then we're all going to be neuro?
But are they talking about it being a disability? Are they using it as, it doesn't sound like it. I don't really see that happening, gender identity mixed with neurodiversity.
Okay, well, then maybe I saw it on social media.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking to Kara about.
I don't see
feel
that
like they're normalizing it, that everyone should, if you're any different than anybody else, you should fall into that category. That's how I feel like I've heard of it.
And it's definitely a term that's at risk for that. And then it kind of loses that connection, then that special place. Because I think it's also good because if somebody doesn't want to fully disclose, they don't have to.
That is true. I didn't think about that.
They could say,
that was a big piece that because I know somebody that, I know personally as an adult, she got diagnosed. Very, very good diagnosis for her and very helpful. But she chooses who she shares that with. But she will, to the general public, say she's neurodiverse.
And that's actually a really good point because some mental health disorders have a more serious connotation than even ASD or autism spectrum disorder. If you disclose that you have obsessive compulsive disorder, that someone might see that much more negatively than
I mean, a lot of
another
the
term.
mental health, it's like they're still struggling with the taboo that is
Absolutely.
attached with that stuff, which
I didn't think about that, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
That's a good.
It's a protection. I can see that.
But I worry. I worry about this, I worry about, again, I've used this word before, it being hijacked for
Right.
using it, watering it down, making it not
Normalizing
what
it.
it was meant.
Normalizing it.
normalizing
Yeah,
And so that
Yeah, because you look at
Exactly
an
right.
individual that has profound autism, they may smear poop on the wall. I mean, or have pica.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
No. Well, it's not just not normal, but it is like, it doesn't just affect you. It is the whole caretaker situation and like affect, it disrupts the whole family unit. I mean, it's a lot more severe than just someone who is thinking differently about a certain situation. So
I think the neurodiverse, I did reach out to some professionals today that works in the community, and I asked them, I was like, so, I've just heard this word in the last couple years, like big time. And what do you think about this? And one of them said, well, she goes, we are seeing a lot of people in our facility that have dual diagnoses. So may have a lot of anxiety or may have trauma in their family, and it's easier. It's just easier to say neurodiverse instead. I've got this, this, and this diagnosed.
yeah, that's a good point.
I would ask maybe Cynthia. She's like, no, don't call me. So do we know, like, obviously Zachary's not talking, so he's not calling himself that, but anyone just of our adult children, are they referring to themselves? Are they using neurodiverse? Like,
No.
okay,
No.
Eric's not either. Okay.
Kelsey's
I've
not.
only
I don't
heard-
even know if she knows of the word.
used
That's
to-
a good question. That should have been one of them I called today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have all called our own children.
The neuroscience.
You did?
This might be off the thing, but we used to just call it flavor of the day.
You go flavor of the
That's
day.
what the neuropsych used to say. What's the flavor of the day?
Oh,
Is that like
the mood. The mood he's in.
Yeah.
okay? So it's not like
not as
does he have? Yeah, so it's not like because like my son does have dual diagnosis. I never know how to say. So yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, what is coming out that day?
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but mine, I think, were kind of like you guys. They weren't really worried about the term, as far as one of my daughters was like, well, I don't know. It just means that your brain thinks a little different. They didn't make a big deal about it, but I do worry.
But they had heard of that term.
They'd heard of it loosely, and Nicole had, she'd heard of it, and she's like, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. She says, I don't know. It's just, it's just a term. It's just a term we use, but. In reading the different definitions and kind of running through it, part of it that did make me worry a little bit was in part of the definition it got into talking about the service piece and focusing on the strengths, which is good. But it said nothing about, supporting and looking at the struggles, the deficits. And kind of just for every social justice movement, there are extremes, and we've seen that, and I've seen that, and I worry, we don't want to take the disability out of autism. That's why I just worry about that. The words, their origin not sticking, as people, maybe get likes or attention for doing this, and they kind of up it and they make it into something that it's not, and then those on the outside that really don't know what it means. And they're like, well, they're neurodiverse and yeah, they're super successful. It just takes that whole perception. And that's just a worry. And will that happen? I don't know. know. But we don't ever want to take away from what, from the services. Because I know somebody mentioned, can it help or can it hurt? I don't know.
Yeah. This might be another topic, but maybe we need to concentrate our concentrate our time on maybe getting the DSM changed so that there is a profound autism, diagnosis. Because I know that's like, instead of having that's a huge thing in our community, is that why is profound autism part of, the same with Asperger's syndrome,
Right.
but why is that part of like the much higher, functioning autism pieces? But
Yeah, I think you've hit on it. I mean, why?
I think this is just another way to, do that. Because we had the separation before, which I think we all felt, maybe not. But as a kid on the profound end, I mean, we still connected and were around tons of people that were diagnosed with Asperger's at that time, because that was the language. But it just feels like we're just trying to smooth it all over a little bit. And I think even for someone who originally would have had the Asperger's and now might have level 1 or level 2, those people, like we do need to always remember that every level have supports that they are needing.
yeah.
We can't just take all these, we can't just say, well, it's not a disorder. Everybody's, great the way they are. I mean, yes, to a certain extent. But if you can't actually be independent in the world and have your own life, then that's a totally different situation. I mean, like, we just can't take, just because I don't know what the, I don't know.
It's like reading the fine print. You
Yeah.
have to, there's fine print for us.
And I'm a happy medium girl. I feel like extreme to any end is not helpful. I kind of like middle, and I would tell my husband this, let's stay in the middle if we can.
Yeah.
Can we stay in the middle?
Yeah.
Depending on what the situation is. And so I do feel like that social media just heightens it quite a bit of the time. We have a few people in the neurodiverse community that are sharing things that are welcoming everyone, that's at least specifically the ASD spectrum. And then we have other people that are just way off in left field that just isn't helpful. So
Can you give us an example?
That's
of that,
social
Heather?
media in general.
yeah, I mean, it is.
Do you think social media is hurting us?
I think social media
for
hurts
sure.
everybody. Obviously, mental health and everything like that for teenagers. And
Yeah.
as soon as you get a phone, I assume that there's not too many positive aspects to it. I mean, the only positive aspect I would say, even just having a page for Zachary, is just it's the only way, as somebody who is isolated. It's not like I'm getting out talking to anybody.
Yeah.
So it is a one way to connect and try to silence the stigma, as we say, like get to know somebody that you might not take the time to get to know in present circumstances, right? In the community. But other than that, I don't think there's a ton of, good connections are good with social media, but I think a lot of them are not that great. Yeah.
The normalization
Yeah.
of autism, hopefully, is going to generate more community awareness and grace.
Do you
so-
think? Do you think? I mean, normalizing autism? You think
well, not
we're funding?
because it's so common. We're one
in 34, but still,
I think
it's not normal, but it if you mean normal as in neurotypical, it isn't, but normal as in it's common.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
if
okay. I
the
see.
word autism, if
yeah.
we wear our autism t-shirts out in public and we're expecting neurotypicals to read our nonverbal communication, yes, we're dealing with autism here.
I don't think I'm seeing any more kindness in the world. I mean, regarding, I just feel like it's becoming more normal. I mean, I may wear my autism shirt. I don't now because Zion's older and he doesn't want that to be disclosed in public. But I definitely did that when he was younger, definitely. Because I didn't want someone to look at me and say, oh, you just have a naughty child. There's something else going on. However, I just don't think, I think it's getting worse and worse. I feel like it is like just, I don't know. And this is a bigger discussion about how the world is just getting so judgmental. But I just feel like
That's
maybe
social media.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just
saying.
Yeah.
It's social
There's
media.
lots of
Yep.
judgment on social
Yeah.
media.
But I'm just saying,
And there's always been a lot of judgment.
yeah.
It's
there's
just to the forefront with social media.
Just in general, it like when I go out, it just seems like there's less kindness in general. But what was I going to say? I don't remember. Go on. No, I just feel like it is normalizing it a little bit, that maybe parents go out and just look around and they're like, well, they're not really thinking, oh, this child has autism. It's just like, oh, I don't know. It's going back to the way it used to be. It's like, it's just a naughty child again.
I think so a term that I've heard recently, just like in the last 6 months, is authentic awareness. It's like a hashtag that's pretty big in the profound autism world. And it's about like that
Say
in
that
between.
again. What is it?
It's
really
authentic awareness.
Authentic
meaning
awareness?
real awareness. Not, and
Yeah.
so I think that just one term that's trying to represent all these other groups is probably a little too broad for people to really put their head around it maybe. But I know that in the profound world, it's like you can't just don't sugarcoat it is basically what the message is, right? Like, I'm a hopeful realist, so I am naturally, like on Zachary's page, I'm not acting any other way than I would think. Like, I do try to find the positive and the silver lining. How in the world would I survive if I didn't?
Right.
And so I just report naturally how I would think about a situation. But I know that sometimes people might think from other areas of social media that I'm not harsh enough about whatever the reality is. But I think, that's why I think middle of the road's kind of cool.
You're saying that you should be harsher on social media about what?
The reality of what you're going through.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that with your page, but you're so good at explaining it. I think
I try to
your
do the
message-
hard and the
you do.
I
the
think you're
good.
really good at it.
But I mean, that's just how I can't like try to be something that I'm not. I've seen plenty of pages that it's just, this is awful. This is never going to get better. It's awful, awful, awful.
Exactly.
And that's just not the way I think in life in general.
Right.
So I'm not able to, that wouldn't be authentic for me. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
But I think that term's a good one, that we can be, come together on different things, but as long as we're authentic and understand. So if we're using the term neurodiverse as, like we say, a place where it's comfort and people can belong that feel like they don't belong to the general public and groups and whatever, then I think that's a good fine thing. As long as we keep it authentic. And, I think that's what irritates most of us, is that if it gets so extreme that then it's just a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
And then you're like, let's use some common sense about this,
Yeah.
Right.
I think also people are using that term neurodiverse and they have no diagnosis at all.
Right. Yeah.
And there's they don't have any of those mental health concerns that you listed off. So
Because they
just,
want to belong.
yeah, because they're, so I think that on the other hand, where like you're just putting yourself in that category with no, I mean, like even if they don't even, they have no medical,
Official diagnosis.
official, even just like your primary care physician.
Yeah.
They're just putting themselves in that category because they think differently or something like that. I think that sways I have a little bit more judgment against that, maybe.
I mean, if you're a touch quirky and you decide to call yourself neurodiverse, and that's not quite what the term is meant to be about.
That's what I'm seeing.
I mean,
That's what I'm seeing a lot. Yes.
My previous boss used to like giggle at me and say, "You're just so fun and quirky." I'm like, well, but I certainly wouldn't think of myself as neurodiverse.
Right.
Right.
So I live in the world as expected for me to do.
How do
so.
we know? We can't judge them on, how do we know if they haven't gotten a diagnosis?
Right.
Yeah. But haven't you looked at other family members, who share genetics with your child, and you go, there's some of the boxes that they check off.
Yeah.
And I've wondered about myself at times, if I sat down with a professional and revealed my childhood and everything, maybe I could get a diagnosis too. But I don't think I am worthy of an autism diagnosis. I think, for better or for worse, I can survive with a minimum amount of support.
Right.
And so, it's okay. I'm quirky, and I'm an autism mom. And Yeah.
But we're all quirky to a certain extent. And I think that's what aggravates me too, is that I remember with early on with the diagnosis and, oh, I think I have it too because I like things in a certain order and I like this. And, some days are better than others. And some days I'm like, oh God, just stop. Know it. And to your point, no, it's a little bit more than that,
Right.
So I'm sure I have it too. And my family would joke. I'm like, that's not funny. Like, it's not cute.
So comparing myself with my son, no, JR's going to need, JR's educational career is totally different from mine.
Right.
The amount of supports that he needs is totally different from mine.
So let's get real.
And
if you can function in the world and hold a job and back to the normalizing part of it, it's just too much for me.
And I don't,
I don't think it's right.
Don't steal it from those that need it.
Correct.
I think it's really on
Exactly
how they
right.
need it, how they use it. Am I looking for connection? Am I looking for support?
Yeah.
Or am I using it for attention and to excuse something that I knew
Well put.
better?
Well said.
And I think the word disability, it doesn't have to have a negative, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Like someone is struggling with something
authentic.
Awareness. I guess authentic disability. I don't know. But I just mean we give all words,
Authentic
positive
autism.
and negative connotations. And just because, Zachary can't live independently doesn't mean his life isn't happy and whatever many times. You know what I'm saying? I just think
a lot of positives.
It's that stigma of disability that I think that honestly we're all just trying to avoid. Not we necessarily, but I'm saying society is somehow trying to avoid it. And it's like but it is what it is. As long as we just understand, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, because there's that section that are just saying this is just a different way to live. It's just, and it's hard because you get that, you understand that people, have their choice and they need to live their lives, but they're overgeneralizing and using this term and just really taking it away from those that need it. That's
Really
what would be my fear.
Well, yeah. And there was a family friend of ours from the past, her daughter, I never really knew that she had a diagnosis, but then she has her master's, I can't remember in what. And I saw she posted on Facebook that she posted a book about living as a neurodivergent and self-help. And I'm like, well, okay, wait a minute. You have all of these diagnoses. So which one are you going to choose to do a self-help? You have to choose one to turn around and do a you can't self-help a whole book on neurodivergent unless you know the diagnosis because all the symptoms are so different.
She going to cover every one of those.
Right.
I think they overlay quite a bit, though. I think they overlay.
Yeah, some of them they do. They have dual diagnoses, but writing a book on it, it just kind of, I'm like, wait a minute,
because Tourette syndrome is going to be
that's like 15 books.
Is she writing the book or she
already
reading?
wrote it.
She already wrote it.
And on social media, I see neurodivergent with a couple doctors that have put things and they've written lots of books and they go and travel the world and give classes on what? Neurodivergent or on a specific diagnosed autism. It's so different, each and every one of them. So you need to clarify what diagnose. Neurodivergent is not a medical term. It's not a diagnose.
That's right.
Correct. But
So write a book on it.
yeah. Well, if it's going to help
Yeah,
somebody, you know what? Write a book. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, I guess.
But how do you
I'm
know
just-
you're getting the right information?
Exactly.
Well, you have.
Not all
I mean,
books
if
are
you're
great.
an adult, I can read a book on Satanism. I'm not going to go worship the devil. Sorry, that's totally weird. Yeah, but I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that if the adults can decide what book they read, but I just feel
Right,
like
but how do they know they're getting the right information? If they are turning around and they're saying that this is a self-help book, how to live in the community when you're neurodivergent, there's so many different medical diagnoses that it falls under. How do you know you're getting the right information in that
you
self-help book? You
but,
don't.
But every book is like that. I mean, you could read Dr. Phil's book and
Not agree with it.
and not agree with it, and you just have to. I mean, if you're able to, be a critical thinker, you're gonna I don't know. I just feel like if it helps, I guess this is so funny because I'm sort of changing my viewpoint on this as we talk. I feel like if it doesn't take resources away from the families that need support, then I sort of feel like maybe they need that label. I don't know.
I think with Elizabeth, your friend that did his protection, I can see that. But if someone says, "Oh, I'm neurodivergent," I'd be going, wonder what's going on with her. Wonder what she has. Like
You want to ask questions.
you still don't have the
as a mom.
information of what they are or what's going on. I mean, and then unless I see something with Tourette's or something that's obvious, then I just.
But why does it affect you though? I mean, why?
Because it makes me wonder if
Curiosity.
if they're introducing me and say, "Mary, I'm neurodivergent," I mean, I'll be okay, I get it. But in your head, you're going to go, "I wonder what's going on."
Well, then you're not able to connect.
And I'm not able to connect on that. Yeah, exactly. So it's not that I'm being nosy or want to know, but that's just natural.
You're just saying why give yourself any label? Just live your life and don't.
Yeah,
Don't say.
I think it's great medically or socially or whatever. And I don't know. It's a little confusing term to me.
Yeah.
You're not given all the information.
Well, I don't think that we're ever going to know everything, though. I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of information out there that we're not going to know about people. I don't know, unless they want to disclose exactly what they have or whatever. I don't know why they would come up to you and say I'm neurodivergent or diverse. I see a lot of people doing that on social media, but I don't.
I've heard the term quite a
Oh, yeah.
They just come up.
Sure.
in conversation.
I can see it coming in conversation, but just not like right away.
Well, I have a different life and work.
Okay, so I was being a little bit broad on that. But within conversation, if they say that, you're going to wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah, in my head, I'm going to go, are they OCD? Are they ADHD? Are they, are they autism? Are they,
Well,
in my mind,
I guess
that's
you could
just
just
what I'm
ask
gonna
them.
do.
yeah, I was going to say maybe, to me, if somebody is saying that to you, maybe they're handing you, kind of, they're cracking the door.
It could be a
And they're letting
conversation
you
starter.
know it's okay to
talk
have
about
that.
it.
Because what's more abrupt saying I'm bringing into the conversation, oh yeah, well, something about neurodiversity or coming up and saying, by the way, it's great to meet you. I'm bipolar and have autism, So maybe that's
Right.
That's
Well,
kinda
listen,
how
in the
they're
disability
cracking the
world,
door.
I've had all kinds come up to me and tell me exactly what's wrong with them. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Hi, did you know I have bipolar? I mean, that's.
But that's more of the medical term. I definitely have that people come up and tell me that.
But it'll be neurodivergent. It's coming.
I don't see a problem with it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just also believe that there can be a change in society where people can make their own grouping. I don't know, but I also don't want supports taken away.
That's
That's my big thing.
Do you think supports are going to be taken away with this generalizing and normalizing these diagnoses?
If it decreases the urgency, if it decreases the feeling that there's a need that, oh, I've not met this person, but I'm a lawmaker and I've had 15 people come in and speak to me eloquently and they tell me they're neurodivergent. And then I have a bill that comes across, and of course we're saying it's really not to that point because it's not that medical term. It's not, but that would be the only thing down the road that would worry me. And I think there's a lot of ways to put,
So you're saying that if
protections in
somebody
place.
goes in to like a policymaker or a politician's office, and then they are very eloquent, seems to be carrying on a conversation, and is doing very well, and then the policy comes up, and there was like, oh well, I spoke to this person, I spoke to this, they did really well. I don't think we need to give these funds over here to
They
this
get the wrong
group.
idea.
But I mean, that could happen with if they come in and say I have autism too. So I don't know if
I
that's
think
really a
that
valid argument, but that's kind of what I would worry that it would.
The worry for us at least is is the mental model broad enough that people are thinking of when they think of autism or neurodiverse or
That's
whatever
my
word
point.
they're using?
Exactly right.
As long as they, they keep the broad needs, because that's why we've talked about media too. Like if everyone thinks autism is the good doctor and that's how they think of autism,
Right.
then yes, we're in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only concern that I would have. And I would say, we just talked about this before we started recording, but there's the first ever, it's a, severe national, the national, I can't say it right now.
That's okay.
It's the National Council for Severe Autism. Yeah. And we follow them pretty heavily, and they're having their first actual day on Capitol Hill this year. And so there is a concern. I'm not saying the word neurodiverse is doing it. I'm just saying as a whole, the mental model of some of these disabilities that, that people may refer to as neurodiverse, that's fine. But if the mental model is not correct, then yes, the ultimate result would be that lawmakers and anyone else that have these that can influence policy, and there are not enough places to for all the adults that have autism that will not live independently, there are not enough places for them to go once their parents are gone. Mm-hmm. And that's just reality.
Right.
So we can't just romanticize, that's why I mean, like, it's term. Yeah. And I think just as people, any group of people from any country, it's just human nature. We like to bond together, and whether it's special needs moms or, together or whatever. And so the overall umbrella concept of just having, I'm neurodiverse, does not offend me. What happens is people take something that's kind of wonderful at the beginning, and then we just run it into the ground.
We do.
And so
I would think, those, who do use the term correctly, if they protect that term, they protect it.
It's a responsibility, I think, as you use terms like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anything else?
That's good.
Dawn?
It's almost
Looks like you're dying to say something over
It's
there,
almost like
Dawn.
you're having to do it all over again, fight all your wars over again.
I was thinking that, because the only other time, the only other time I went was when Zachary's first diagnosed, and insurance wasn't covered, and it was just a whole awareness thing. Nobody had a clue, as we all know. And now it's 23 years later, we're gonna have to go back. It's a little bit depressing, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you do what you got to do.
It needs to happen, though.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, on TV shows and just watching where they glamorize sometimes the Good Doctor or whatever. But I thought they should have more shows with profound autism children in the background, and just, have the dialogue like a normal TV show, then have that profound. That just needs to happen more to bring awareness. And it's not even on social media that much either. People like you or mothers like you, there's not, God knows there's so many other stuff, but it needs to be bring more awareness to profound. People are forgetting, which is another reason we're doing this podcast, right? To bring attention to profound autism as well.
So, did any of you guys change their mind? We know Tara did.
I don't know.
On your feelings on it after discussing it as a group.
I'm on the fence. I think it's also because I'm, in the mental health field, and I'm learning about all these things, and I have some clients that label themselves neurodivergent or diverse or whatever you said. But I also know their diagnoses, so maybe that's true. So yeah.
I'll continue using the label of autism for my son. And I don't think he's aware that he has the opportunity to use another label.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'll use autism too.
Yeah, I'll use autism.
Yeah. We'll always use autism and all the other
And all your others,
diagnosis. But I don't know. I still I just think if it's used correctly, I really think it just boils down to the person using it. If they're using it,
If that makes them feel comfortable.
to not have to, disclose their whole history and get super personal before they it gives them a chance to kind of try out the waters, kind of see how that person reacts with that. Because I know with Nicole, when she has felt, there have been a couple of times she has felt comfortable to disclose and then really regretted it afterwards. And she was like, never again, never again. And it really hurt her. Had she, back then, when those experiences happened, the word wasn't around then, she probably would have led with that, gauged their response, and then maybe gone into a deeper discussion. So I think it's a good tool. I think it's worth protecting, but I also worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good way to end on that note, unless anyone else has anything else to say. Okie dokie. Tara, where can they find us?
Yeah, you can find us on Apple and Spotify under Navigating Adult Autism Podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Navigating Adult Autism. Our website is navigatingadultautism.com. And we also are on YouTube now. And you can search for us on Navigating Adult Autism Podcast. So, and if you want to contact us, it's moms@navigatingadultautism.com.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.